Okay, today we're doing an airflow test on this Lindhaus Healthcare Pro. Lindhaus is an Italian company, and I often find their machines somewhat comparable to SIBO. Now, if you've ever seen a Lindhaus before, this hose might be a little bit unfamiliar, because generally newer models have a stretch hose on it, which I don't like these stretch hoses. A very strange thing about Lindhaus is despite using a 35mm connection, the hoses they use are 32 or inch and a quarter. That's never made sense. I'm like, why would you want the hose to have a smaller diameter than the ends? Because it's like, not only could that lead to a clog with the area here being larger, but it also seems like it would cut down its airflow, especially, when we're dealing with a stretch hose, which tend to have thicker walls. So I made the exchange for a non-stretch hose. But yeah, I picked this machine up a while back for about $20. They had it marked as a Lindsay vacuum, and I'm like, it's like, okay. And I recently had gotten a parts donor machine from a shop I stopped at. My original concern was this part right here, because it had a crack somewhere on it. So I figured, well, he's not going to use this machine, so I may as well take it and get the parts I need. But then I kind of discovered, how yellowed the one I had was, so I actually ended up switching over most of the body parts. The only parts that are original to not original to this machine, but the only parts that came over from the other discolored machine were this piece down here, because we had the connection piece down here actually break the screw well, so it wasn't in place, and then the power head too is still from the old machine. I unfortunately did not realize that this didn't have the same button as the other one, because my other one had a white button you would push in. Because with these, to release the cord quickly, what you would do is you would push this in, and it's easier with the button, and then you would push the handle down a little bit in order to release the cord. Kind of dumb, but that's pretty much all their machines. None of them have a turning quick release from what I remember. And we have the electrostatic filter here, which is just a flat piece of material under a grate. You can also put a HEPA filter in these things if you so desire. And then we have paper bags, because the HEPA ones seem hard to get. I know our U.S. rep, or head of the U.S. distribution center, does say he has the bags, but nobody wants them, according to him, which it's like, why would nobody want them? It's like, I'd much rather have a HEPA bag for it. Let's take a little look. And before I forget, it reminds me a little bit of a Felix in this way, because you can actually place a floor tool on where the power head is. This version is a little bit older, because they now do make a freestanding version, which would have been nice, but it was cheaper to buy a used one, and I can't imagine that I'll actually be, using it on exclusively hard floors for long periods of time. But I think I've rambled on enough here, so why don't we get on to the testing of it. Alright, so we'll start with one motor on, and then we'll turn them both on. Single motor? Both motors. Alright, we'll first take the airflow measurement at the body. I know there's a little bit of stuff in the bag, but certainly not much. So it shouldn't affect it too badly. And now we'll take the suction. Well, there is a suction relief valve in this. I know that. But I thought it would do a little better. And now we'll take the flow at the end of the hose. We went up a little. But now we seem to be holding steady. And now we'll take the suction of the hose. And first with the brush roll off. We don't seem to be changing. So not super strong suction at the base. Definitely some leakage around the vents. Maybe a little bit around here. Now let's turn the brush roll on. Well, we don't seem to be moving. Alright, well, suction doesn't seem to have changed. But I mean, clearly, we have a good amount of air coming out of here. Well, we'll do the pickup test. You know, I've had several Lindhaus machines now, because I want to say I've had two Activas, one gray one, and then a kind of a clear blue platinum. Um, let's see, I've had a Diamante, and I think this is the second Healthcare Pro I've had. Oh yes, and I've had some Arias. Want to say one white elite, one blue, nope, two blue platinums, and I very shortly had an HF6 canister. And you know, the kind of impression I've gotten from them is that their power comes from their brush roll. You know, it's a very, according to them, high-speed brush roll, and it seems like it grooms well and it picks up pretty well without scattering. But I feel like their suction motors have always been lacking a little bit, and maybe it's just it could be that the suction relief valve is a little too loose, because I mean it doesn't have a whole lot of tension to it from what I recall. But I don't know, I always felt like, you know, if they could just produce a better motor, because the Lindhaus line uses motors produced by their parent company, which is Rotafil. If they could just produce better, more powerful motors, they would have a better machine. Because it's like they've got a good brush, but I don't know, their specs just don't really match up. Because when we look at like a brochure from a brand new Lindhaus upright, like a Healthcare Pro, I think we see about 103 CFM and 90 inches of water lift as a rating, but we don't seem to really get anywhere near that. And it's like, if those were the motor specs, it wouldn't be bad if we were to see close, you know, a little bit closer to that when we test them. I mean, clearly this one's quite a bit older than the newest models, but I have tested some newer models too. I mean, certainly not a bad machine. I just feel like there's more potential to be had with these than what we see from them, if that makes sense. But regardless, I like this machine. You know, grooms well, it's quiet, seems fairly robust. You know, it's a few things I'm not fond of, like the hose diameter, but you know, what do you do?